Welcome to Double D's Lovecast. I'm Damon.
And I'm Desiree. And this is Life Therapy.
All right. So this week, we're going to start this off by talking about first what we did last week.
So remember, we're starting with our dates.
Yeah. So what did we do last week?
So last week we saw Maverick at the movies.
Which is actually really amazing.
Really good.
You guys haven't seen that? It's
times.
awesome. Mm-hmm. Really good movie. Okay. And then for Saturday, what did we do?
Saturday, we went boating with some of our friends and Damon got extremely wasted.
I don't like to get that drunk, y'all. It was not.
It was like
totally not intentional.
It was like embarrassing, wasted. I was embarrassed.
It wasn't that bad though. Only had a couple moments.
You were hanging off the side of a boat at one point. Yes.
It wasn't that bad.
So one thing that we did learn, because remember when we talked about the last episode where when you go on dates that you want to make sure that you are spending those dates like quality time. Well, we did go see Maverick and our time is like so limited these days because we work multiple businesses. We have a lot of kids in summer school driving around. We didn't get a chance to even like really talk. We literally like went to the movie and then had to like rush off to like train clients. So I definitely don't suggest like doing a movie date because you don't get to talk. So like, I don't even know. What are we doing for a date day today?
Picnic.
Oh, yeah. Are you making me food? Because I'm
starving. Oh man, you should have told me that. I would have made something.
That's okay. I will go home and eat before we go. So we had a really great time boating with the friends. Got to spend some quality time there out in Newport Harbor. So that was really nice.
Really super beautiful. So what did we talk about in episode 1? Let's give them a little bit of a recap.
So episode 1, we talked about our own personal backgrounds, where we came from childhood to where we kind of met. In episode 2,
we talked about the infamous first dates and all the tests that I put Desiree through. So today, as promised in the last episode, we are actually going to talk about a little bit of the journey on how we broke up. Okay, twice.
But let's talk about kind of like how we actually started to build that relationship
and why we were such a power couple.
Yeah, from the get-go. So in the last episode, after we met and we went on that first date, we ended up being like completely inseparable. We were always spending time with each other multiple days a week. On the weekends, he'd stay at my house. We'd bring the kids involved. We remember my kids would go to their grandma's like every other weekend and his would be with the mom every other weekend. So we always had like a weekend where it was just by ourselves
to connect,
which was really, fun. And we always did like a lot of things. We tried to back then. I mean,
go ahead.
I would say there was a few times we mountain biked and died a few times.
Almost died once, for real.
Yes.
So if you guys remember what we were talking about in the first few episodes, we were doing a lot of things naturally as a couple that just naturally fed into each other's love languages, right? So if you guys didn't watch first 2 episodes, like I'm more of like a touch person, right? And a words of affirmation. If you don't know what that means, it comes from like the 5 love languages, right? And she's more like quality time is like her number 1 and like touch would be like number 2, right? So for us, we were always doing all these things that were totally investing in one another and feeding each other's love languages constantly to the point to where we were just overflowing, right? And which is why it was for us, just the relationship was easy because, we worked out together every single day, like literally every single day. We worked together all day long, right? Once we moved in together and she became a trainer, we worked together all day long. When we're working from home, right? We're hanging out at home together, having fun, bullshitting. Whenever we're done with the kids at nighttime, we're laying in bed, watching Netflix or doing whatever, having lots of sex, right? Constantly connecting and investing in the relationship. I saw that look. So this is a relationship podcast. Okay. So they get it, right? So so we were doing all these things. And then like she was saying, we had these weekends every other week where it was just us, no kids, right? Because we had 3 kids together, right? She had the 2 and then I had 1, right?
Right.
So
and if
all this.
Yeah. And if, for those of you guys that, when you send the kids off to grandma's house and you actually can hang out with your husband, it's like, whew.
Yes. It's peaceful.
Yeah. It's like, we can do whatever we want.
Yeah, super fun. So, and that was basically how the majority of our first, 6 years of our relationship was, right? That was just
kind of
for the most part. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so we ended up getting married, right? And then we had this really, really awesome wedding and this really amazing wedding weekend. And she was so gorgeous in her little wedding dress. And yes, I cried. Okay. Yes, I cried. I was trying so hard not to, but I did. And then, so we fast forward, right? And I'll kind of let you kind of tell your perspective on kind of how this thing started to play out before. I'll let her tell her perspective and then I'll tell my perspective. Cause remember, I'm the analyze guy. I overanalyze everything.
Perspective as in like how we broke up.
Yeah.
Man, that was fast like relationship already, right, guys? And he already jumped into the breakup.
Well, we're trying to keep this one, not too long with the podcast.
So, as you guys remember, I have 2 kids. My first husband passed away, and one of my kids is also adopted. So think about the emotional trauma that those kids already have. And, when their dad died, and the adopted dad, they were 4 and almost 2. So not growing up without like a dad or a father figure, because by the time that you met them, how old were they?
9 and 11.
9 and 11,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So I had already been in a long relationship too before him. And one of the things that was so important to me was to make sure that I found a guy that was going to be a good father figure. So that was one of the things that really, really attracted me to Damon was, the first day that I met him, he had his son who was 3 years old. And then the more time that we started to like hang out, he was like teaching his son and he was like always with them. So I'm like, oh my God, this guy is great. He's going to be great for my kids. And then my kids kind of turned into like teenagers, rebelling, didn't want to listen.
Got super disrespectful. The second one, the adopted one, super disrespectful.
Yeah, turned into like drugs and cops and just problem. And so if you think about at that point, we have these 3 boys and here we are,
2 teenagers that are super rebellious, stressing us the hell out every day.
And we're trying to like still like be in our newlywed stage.
We're trying, but we have distractions every day.
And at that point, they don't want to go to grandma's house anymore. So they're like always home. So we started to miss out on like a break. And then we started to like not have a connection because we had so many issues with the kids. And then we would argue about the kids because
we weren't on the same page when it came to parenting back then.
Yeah,
so,
definitely not.
We weren't
on the
now.
same page for a lot of things. That's one of the things that we learned coming back together. And that's from that book that I was telling you, the 8-Date book.
Oh yeah.
They ask you a ton of questions. We're like, oh my gosh, guys, we did this completely wrong.
We
from
never
the
talked about it.
We didn't talk about anything.
Nothing.
We were just in love and like to be together. We had fun together. We didn't talk about religion, family, parenting, finances.
Nothing.
All that stuff.
Nothing.
Like, what do you want to do with your life in the future? We literally just...
We were just riding on those love tanks, right? We're just like, woo, we're so amazing, right? We didn't talk about anything important, right? So,
and then that's, the shit hit the fan.
And then, what happened was you forgot one of the children. So,
oh yeah. So I wanted to have another child because remember I had lost a baby. And so, who would now be, 22 years old, almost 23 years old. And so it took me a lot of years to be actually okay with the feeling of like, I can actually try to go through this again. and without that fear of like maybe possibly like losing another child, because for those of you that haven't like buried a child, it's pretty traumatic. And it's scary to like move on past that and to try to, go through that whole thing again. And so, and plus I really wanted to like have a girl, but I got another boy.
I only carry boys. Sorry.
I always say my girl is in heaven, who was designed for my mother in heaven.
Yeah. So, and from my perspective, I didn't want to have any more kids because we already had the life, right? We had already raised them. We already had them.
You wanted to have kids at all, period.
I never did until I had my little dude. And then I was like, you know what? Like I'd never experienced love like that in my life until I had my son. And then after that, it kind of opened my eyes. Like, you know what? I could definitely have more kids, but I didn't want to start back over with the baby stage. Because for those of you guys listening, okay, understand this, okay? As men, our role in the relationships, okay, and I didn't learn this until just recently, okay? So I'm gonna give you a fast forward, okay? So our role in a relationship is basically to be the provider, the protector, to raise the children to be successful adults, right? That's our role. As men, we don't like babies.
I love babies.
Nurturers. Women are nurturers, okay? Men don't like babies, okay? And any man that's telling you that they do, they're lying. They're just trying to make you smile. It's BS, okay? We don't like babies, okay? We like them when they're like 5+, right? That's our years, right? So
I will foster babies, baby after baby after baby, just to have a baby.
It's totally it's a woman thing, right? She loves babies. So I didn't want to have kids, right? But then she kind of convinced me, that like,
because I said I would do absolutely everything, get up in the middle of the night. And I did that.
She did. She 100% followed through.
Even though I had to be at the gym early in the morning.
And just to give you a little context on why that was such a concern was during that period of my life, I was waking up at 4 a.m. 7 days a week.
By his choice, not because he had to train.
Building the empire, right? So I'm like 4 a.m., 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And I did this for almost 4 years straight. So when she was like, I want to have a baby, I'm like, I will die. I barely get any sleep as it is every day. Like I will literally die.
That's
right?
Your choice.
It was. And then so she was basically like, well, how about this? How about you don't have to get up in the middle of the night. I'll do everything when the baby needs to be fed or whatever, diaper change. I'll get up in the middle of the night and you don't have to do anything. And I was like, how do I say no to that? And I was like, fine. Okay. We can have another kid. Right. But I'm like, I only carry boys. So she didn't get the girl that she wanted. Okay. But she did get a mama's boy. Right. So he's totally mama's boy.
All my boys are mama's boys.
All of them, 100%. Even mine is hers. So anyway, so fast forward. So we're having the issues with the teens. We got the one teen that's got a drug problem, stressing us out like crazy every single day.
Skipping school all the time.
Super disrespectful. Just like literally like you tell him to do something. And to me, he'd be like, no, I ain't gonna do what you say. F you. I ain't doing anything. Like totally disrespectful. Right. And then then we have the baby. Okay. Right now, remember our relationship prior to this, right? We were 100% into each other, right? It was all us, right? Then what happened was when she got pregnant, right? We stopped working out together, stopped hanging out together. We stopped doing everything together. We weren't having any more fun together. We weren't doing anything together, right? Now, all these wounds, remember these wounds that I was telling you about in episode 1 that I had from like my experience, right? And the wounds that she has from her experience. Now we have the stress from this stuff going on. We have the stress with the new baby. Now we have this disconnection between us emotionally because we're not investing in each other like we had been the previous 6 years, right? And then what happened was we slowly started to disconnect. Our wounds were getting triggered, right? And then we started becoming kind of resentful and assholes to each other. And it just led to this massive separation from like an emotional standpoint. And then over time and years, then we broke up, right? And then we broke up the first time. And it's really, the second time was really kind of a continuation of the first time when you really think about it.
We did. We kind of jumped the gun getting back together too soon.
Yeah. And here's what I learned from this one. because in this one, when we broke up the first time, I'm the kind of person that like when something goes wrong or I need to learn a skill, I immediately buy books, take courses, do things to improve myself, right? So that way I can learn how to not have that happen again and to succeed in those areas, right? So I had taken a course when we broke up the first time and started doing all this work on the relationship, right? When you think about a relationship, it's you, your spouse, your relationship is really like it's like its own little entity, right? So I was putting all this work into the relationship, but her and I were still the same people, right? We still had the same wounds. We still had the same problems within ourselves. We still had the same pain and hurt and war. I had a war going on inside of me. She just had like a bunch of trauma and a bunch of pain, right? So we were still the same people. And then, so we kind of rekindled our little situation.
Yeah. So we had lived separately, and then we just started going out on like dates and hanging out and stuff like that. And then I think like your house lease was up, and then we're like, well, it doesn't make sense for you to like go for like a whole nother year. And so I wasn't really ready, but I'm like, come on over.
So then we still going through all this stuff with the new kid, still going through the stuff with the son who's got the drug problem. And at this point, his drug problems had gotten really, really, really bad. And to kind of give you some perspective on like what we were kind of going through, like, let me give you an example of like an average day.
Well, so backtrack, you guys, the kind of like timeline that we're talking about right now. So baby is now like almost 2 years old. So this is over 4 years ago.
Yeah. So anyway, so to give you a kind of an idea what we were going through. So the thing is with him in the state of California, you have to take care of your children until they're 18, right? So we have a kid who's being super disrespectful. He's getting high every day. He's doing a lot of stuff, and he's progressively getting worse. He's already dropped out of school. He's, just really, really, really the exact child you never want to experience in your life. And it's not even because of it's who he was, it's what the drugs were making him become. Because when he's sober, he's amazing, right? And
so I made the choice to send him to like a boys wilderness school that cost us an arm and a leg.
$4,000 a month, guys.
Every single month. And so he was there for 10 months. I think that was probably stressful because of like having to come up with that extra money, but like so much better in our household.
It was peace for 10 months.
Because not only does that issue with my son that has the drug problem affect like our relationship, but it affects our whole entire family and the other kids.
The other kids,
I mean, it still does to this day.
When he walks in the house, the whole house goes like it's instant.
And so for those of you guys that follow me on my social media, you'll see he's 21 now. He's homeless addict living on the streets out in Orange County somewhere. So, randomly he shows up every 5-6 months. And nobody knows how to act around him because it just brings out just so much like issues. And so
because when it comes to him being around, like you have to worry about everything getting stolen, right? Your wallet, your keys, anything that's worth value, right?
Well, it's not just that. It's just, that he is really only there because he wants something.
Exactly.
Because he's not ready to get clean yet.
Yeah.
So he's going to ask for money. Yep. He's just you just can't like relax around him. And then like, what are you going to talk about with him? Because he's been so disconnected from the family. But by sending him there was actually, I feel like he learned a lot of good things there. But that was very stressful on him. And then he had a lot of resentment when he came back because he got back into drugs again. It's like literally wasted $40,000 on this program.
So when we sent him away to the program, that was when he was 16. And it was an extra $4,000 a month on our already expensive life, right? And so I was hustling like 16, 18 hours a day to make sure that happened so we could keep him there. And then so when we brought him back, within a month, he was right back into, we even moved our house, right? So we had sent him to this program. We moved out of the city that we were living in, moved all the way to the other side of Orange County. So that way, whenever he came home, he was in a completely new environment, right? And then, you know, on top of that, I was hustling for 10 months to make sure that he could stay there, you know, 4G's extra a month on top of our already expensive life. And so when he came back and then he slipped right back into it within about a month or 6 weeks, maybe, I was super, super resentful and angry at him because of that. So,
but it's kind of like, I feel like our fault too, because he wasn't ready to come back. He should have been, they say that he should have actually been in the program for like 2 years.
Yeah, he probably needed to stay there, but you know, 4G's a month. Come on, man. That's
can
like,
you imagine?
it's like having another mortgage payment.
Probably cheaper than like a rehab, like a live-in patient, like rehab.
Yeah.
For Orange County.
For sure. So anyway, so to kind of give you an idea of like what a typical day would look like at our home, I get up early in the morning, right? Typically.
So did I, but I had to drag the kid with me, the new kid.
Yeah. So then in the mornings I would wake up, and usually a lot of mornings he would be passed out, right, on the couch, right? There'd be drugs on the floor, empty alcohol bottles, all kinds of stuff, right? And then for me as a father, it made me angry every day, because it was like, dude, I'm trying to protect my little guys, right? Like, had I not gotten up at 4 a.m. and say Axel woke up early and came down there and found those drugs and ate it, right, he could be dead, right? So that used to piss me off every day when I would wake up in the morning and I would see this, right? I'm like, had I not gotten up early and saw this and actually, you know, thrown it away myself, like, what if Axel got this, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, and also too, like, I'm like OCD, love a clean house. I would get honestly angry if like there's stuff like out in my kitchen, just stuff out. Everything has to be put away, or I just get really like, like I get so mad and angry. Like, that's the first thing that I wake up to. I want it to be like clean and fresh, like good vibes, good start, right?
So let me give you an idea why she's talking about this, because this child is very messy. Dirty. Okay. So at this phase in our marriage and our relationship, like, our kitchen stays spotless. Okay. And so usually around 8 p.m. every night before I actually head upstairs, I will clean the kitchen. Right. So that way, when she wakes up in the morning, kitchen's perfectly clean. Right. Well, Sebastian, the problem child, would come home in the middle of the night and he'd be all high or intoxicated in some way, and he'd be eating something. There's garbage everywhere, all over the counters. There's stuff out. He's got burnt stuff on the stove. There's like, sometimes he's like trying to just create things like MacGyver, and it's melted on the counter. And I'm like, I wake up and I see like the crap on the floor in the living room and the drugs and alcohol. And then I go look at the kitchen and I'm like, oh, your mom is going to lose her shit when she wakes up.
I had many a morning that started in fights.
She did lose her shit. So anyways, so fast forward to that. So we had broken up, gotten back together. And then right at the end of 2019 was when we had, moved back in together, right? What happened in 2020?
Yeah. So within a few months, guys,
we had the
world shuts down, right? And we're locked at the house together.
And I don't really think it was the locked in the house together part that was really so bad. It was more of like the added stress on top of all the other stuff. Now we have business stress, because whenever we had the lockdown thing, we literally lost half our income overnight. Literally just overnight.
Yeah, we did. And we did have some really amazing clients that stuck with us. We try to do everything like meet outdoors, try to do like online workouts. Like, we try to think of everything possible because we didn't qualify for any of that stimulus crap because they go based off of your old taxes, which is so stupid.
Right.
And so it was just so stressful for all of us. And
and we still had this Sebastian issue. We still had the new kid issue. We had all this stress, but we were still the same damaged people trying to run a relationship where we weren't even really like in a good state yet, and, we were on our way up, and then 2020 happened. And then a few months later, what happened? We broke up again.
Well, yeah, we broke up again, but let's talk about let's talk about more like stuff. Like, I cut back on a ton of things because I lost my income, right? So the thing that really did it for me on this last breakup was I cut back on all my extra spending, cut my house cleaner, my pest control, all this stuff. And I got a new car because my lease was up.
Mine was too.
David went and bought a second, more expensive car instead of helping me pay for things with the house.
We weren't a team player at that point.
So he has 2 cars and I'm over here scrubbing the fucking house. So you can see where I'm like super agitated, on top of he was like this on his cell phone, like
trying to save the planet.
Yeah, he went deep down the rabbit
hole.
And so it's like this, like nothing from him. And then he has his sports car and a truck. And here I am trying to just make it ends meet. So we were not like a team at all.
Not at that point. And we were kind of
but that's
already.
You were already like resentful to me because we just weren't filling up each other's love tanks. And
so we were already like emotionally disconnected at that point, right? We were already very resentful of each other. And like I keep saying, we were both still very wounded and had a bunch of stuff we needed to heal from a long time ago that we were still, still hadn't. And it led to us behaving in the ways that we did. Even my purchase of my car was 100% emotional. Okay. 100%.
Your purchase of your car was 100% emotional for me. Done.
It was 100% emotional. And what it was coming from was, which I didn't learn this until I actually started healing, right? Is that when we were having this disconnection between us, right? It was leading to me triggering all those old wounds, which I'll talk about more in the next episode and how I healed myself and things like that. But it was triggering those wounds. And I thought in my head, like, this would make me feel better. Right. It didn't. It didn't make me feel better at all.
I didn't even want to ride in that darn car. I was like, absolutely not. I mean, it doesn't even make sense. You have like 4 kids and you have this like sports car.
It was for me. It was for me and only me. And the reason I justified it was because I had put that off for 6 years so we could have a kid. Right.
No, you said you had to put that off because you said that car, like Sebastian going to Montana was like your car.
Yeah. So Sebastian going to Montana, that was basically my car. Taking care of the new kid, that was my car. The brand new gym that we had just opened up was basically my car. I kept putting it off, not taking care of me first because I was trying to take care of the family, right? And then I hit that point where I was just
guys, I work too.
I was at a low, and then boom, bought that car. And then I literally like a month after I had it, I was like, I don't even like this car. I'm like, I'm gonna sell it. So I ended up selling it a few months later. But so that's kind of like the fast forward of like how we broke up. But at the root of our situation and our decisions and our behaviors are unhealed emotions that we never healed from, never dealt with. And this is really what we're going to be getting into more in future episodes because
that's the whole reason why we actually even started this podcast, was to not talk about all this like past drama and stuff. We just want to help try to lead you up to tell you how we got to where we are and how we have continuously, even still now, like are working on it, because it is an ongoing process. Especially in a marriage, it's just as hard as I feel like parenting for those of you that are parents out there, because you always have to think about somebody else, but you also have to make sure that you are happy with yourself too, and you're healed from all your wounds and things.
Yes,
so
100%. Because the way that, if you look at it like this, your old unhealed, unresolved issues, okay, they don't just go away with time. Okay, you guys, and the reason why I'm telling you this is because a lot of you guys have a lot of unhealed stuff from your childhoods, from past relationships, and from past bad decisions, and even friendships and things like that you've never healed from, and they are affecting every single decision you make every single day.
Absolutely,
they're affecting how you behave in your relationships, especially. So one of the things that was basically like how I was, behaving in our entire relationship, and as I actually started to heal, a lot of these behaviors and things that I used to do just completely disappeared. Right. And I just, like, for those of you guys that have been following me for a long time, and you guys remember like how much of an asshole I used to be, right? I was an asshole. And for the longest time, I always thought like, I'm just an asshole. That's just who I am. Right. And not really knowing like where it was actually coming from. And then as I actually started to heal, I realized like all that assholeness just disappeared. And then I don't even recognize that guy anymore. I'm like, damn, I used to do that. That's crazy. Like, I don't even recognize that guy anymore.
Yeah. And you guys, a majority of our relationship too, because I'm sweet and he's an asshole, is a lot of people, a lot of other couples did not want to hang out with us together as a couple.
Because I was an asshole, because I was the kind of person that like,
and I'm super social. So that's really hard for me.
So I was like the friend that you had to warn your other friends about before I came anywhere. So it was like, don't say anything around Damon because he would get triggered and he's going to lose his shit. Right.
Don't say, don't eat.
Yeah. Don't. And that was kind of like how it was. And I used to actually kind of take pride in that, but now it's not like that at all. I don't get triggered anymore at all. But
well, I think too is like just understanding, and we've talked about this, is everybody is on their own journey and everybody's broken inside. And the best thing that we can do is try to, one, share knowledge on how you can help deal with those traumas and emotions, so that way you can live the best life and you can have great relationships with other people and your children, and and just be confident in the self and the person that you are.
Absolutely. And the big thing too, when you're dealing with two people who are broken, right? And then you're trying to run a relationship, it's not going to function the way that it should. Right. So, and from a guy's perspective, especially guys, if you're listening to this, listen to what I'm saying here. It's your fault. Because we can lead this, right? So, and most men from the time that they're small are taught to suppress their emotions, right? So they've been suppressing their anger and their hurt and their pain for decades of their lives, right? Which leads to guys like me who are triggered every single day over stupid things, right? And it's because you have all these unhealed, unresolved emotions. They're just always sitting underneath the surface. And no matter how amazing you try and make your life be, and how much personal development you do, and how much positive thinking you do, you're triggered instantly, automatically by certain things each day, anything that triggers those old wounds. Yeah. So you have to heal so you stop reacting, because when you react, it affects your wife. Okay. So yeah, listening.
And I would never, just so you guys know, I would never, ever want a perfect life. I would never erase any of the things that I had gone through in all of my life, because I feel like it has completely made me the person that I am. And, we talked about before, valuing relationships and just loving on people and just providing hope back to like people, because there's so many broken people. And I feel like that's so big right now, especially like after like the last couple of years. I feel like, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I have just completely changed into like another human being in the last couple of years.
100%, you have tremendously.
And I think for so many reasons, but life is short and time is something that you never get back. And so why waste your time being like, just miserable all the time and unhappy? It is so not a life to live.
100%. And like she was saying too, I totally agree with that too. Like I actually am grateful for all the experiences that I've had, because it led to me learning things and changing things within myself that now I can actually teach you guys. Right. So like even our breakups, like each breakup had very, very, very valuable lessons. Like breakup number one taught me one thing. Okay. Listen to me, men. Listen to me. This is what breakup number one taught me. Breakup number one taught me that no amount of money, abs, success, toys, no amount of any of the stuff that you are pursuing every single day is going to matter if your relationship isn't on point, because you are still going to be miserable. So the first breakup taught me like, wow, I actually value my marriage and I value my relationship more than all this other shit that I'm putting all this time into. And I need to put my relationship and make that number one, which was an area, which is also a reason why we had our issues too. It's because we weren't doing that. Right. She's focused on the kids and I was focused on the business.
Yeah. And I'm not a money motivated person. So I am just like a live life to its fullest type of person. And make memories. So we can see that like we are just total opposites in so many ways.
And all you guys are with your partners. You're all total opposites. So
So, but yeah, so we're super excited. So we're going to be coming at you every Thursday. We do have an email account set up for any of you guys that ever want to ask questions. I don't know if you have checked that yet to see if anybody has emails.
I'll look at that later.
But it is double, like the word double,
D.
lovecast@gmail.com. You can email us any questions you have there and we'll bring it up on the podcast.
Or just shoot it to us on Messenger.
Yep,
right?
you can do that too. Please, 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 please share, like, comment this video as much as you possibly can so we can get the word out and start changing more couples' lives or even individuals' lives before they even get into a relationship or their next relationship. We want to leave you with a tip that we're going to do at the end of every single episode. And the biggest tip that worked for us that we actually still are doing every single day is there is an app. It is called Paired, and it is for couples, and it asks you like questions like every day. And it's pretty cool because like it'll ask you, let's look at it and see like one of the things that it says. Let's look at for like today.
Let's see. There's
daily
a lot.
Question. Oh, it's a daily conversation. So it's a daily conversation every single day. And so I'll ask you questions.
So this was the June check-in. So it's kind of like a little game you play with each other. It's the end of the month, right? So it's doing a little check-in. So it's got a bunch of questions that I would answer and she answers, right? And then
or how I would think that he would answer. So there's a lot of different like versions and variations of questions on here. It's pretty cool.
Also what it does is it gives you topics of conversation for you to have. So like sometimes it'll ask us some stuff and I'm like, oh, that's a great question. And that answer she gave, I want to find out more about that. So like I'll screenshot it and then I'll save it in my notes. So that way, when we go on our date, I'm like, I'm going to ask her more details about that because I want to know more about this answer. So, but it's called Paired, right? And then you just play the game each day and it keeps track of your streak of all the days that you answered it.
So really quick,
in a row.
Say a couple of those ones.
So here's the check-in for June. It says, and you basically rate it with like a smiley face with like unhappy to like cheese and smile. So it's like 5 levels
on this particular one, but there's actually some that you type out too.
Yeah. So this one says, I felt heard by my partner this month. And then, so you'd rate it from like the, from
sad
like
face
sad face or happy face, right? I'm satisfied with how we resolved our disagreements this month. We actively made time for laughter and excitement this month. My partner supported me in my personal growth this month. We were aligned on how we spent money this month. We made time for emotional and physical intimacy. Okay, have sex, guys. And my partner pulled their weight at home this month. I felt safe to be my authentic self around my partner this month. And number 9, my partner got along well with my family and friends this month. So it's just like the end of the month check-in, right? So it'll send you one of these like at the end of every month, but there's tons of things that you could look up. You could look up stuff about connection. You can look up stuff about finances. You can look up stuff about sex. You can look up stuff about, and it has all types of these games and quizzes and things like that. And it's something that you can do with your spouse, right? And then you pair them in the morning and then they'll answer it later in the day, right? And then you just get to learn more about one another. So that way you can connect and also create more questions and things like that you could actually ask and dive deeper into on your dates. So that's just another little tip and something that we do all the time as well too. So the app is called Paired.
And if you guys aren't part of our Facebook group, Double D's Lovecast, where we put in tips, we also post our videos, comment on here, and we will invite you to the group or drop the group name in there.
Yeah, we have a private group on Facebook. So if you want to join that, which we'll be sharing all the stuff in there, like she said, you can also ask us questions and stuff in there too, privately, if you want to as well too. So we're here to help you guys because we've been through the ringer, right? So we know how it is. We want to save you guys from going through the pain that we went through. Okay. It was extremely painful past few years and I don't want you guys to experience it.
And the divorce rate is so high when I think just people, if they just came together and they started working more
on themselves
and becoming a team and learning more about what makes the other person's heart sing, then it's just more likely to bring more love into the world.
Absolutely. All right. So I think that concludes today's episode. So
on to our dates.
We will see you guys next week. We got date day today. So we'll see you guys next time.
Bye, guys.